So we've got Dana Martin on right now. Welcome and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess I will get right into it. And I don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started writing backstories.
I've been writing for years and years and years, as most writers will tell you, but my history with backstory writing came as an accident, just like a lot of times people sort of stumble into Halloween by accident, haunters. I was an editor of a local magazine, and I decided to do a story on a local haunted attraction. And the owner took me through, and I live in Bakersfield, California, and the haunted attraction where I live is called Talladega Frights. And the owner took me through, and I can tell you from the day I went through, I was kind of hooked. I thought, oh, he was taking me through, this is the room, and these are the drop panels. And I have to be very honest with all of your listeners and watchers that I was never a haunted house fan. I had not ever been through one until the moment when I got to go through the daytime tour with Talladega Frights as a writer. So long story short there is that the owner of Talladega Frights knew that I was a writer and said, hey, do you think you can do haunted backstory for the haunt? And I thought, I answered before I knew better, and I said, of course, I can write anything. And so I quickly got on the internet and started researching bigger haunts and thought, okay, I'm going to figure out what these backstories are. And so he had a number of areas. He had 4 areas, so I had to write 4 backstories for his haunt. And each one of them was unique. There was hillbillies, there was an asylum, there was a hotel, and there was an abandoned mine. And so those were my first backstories, and I got started simply by being in the right place at the right time and finding a quick passion for Halloween, and kind of discovered pretty quickly that I liked it.
Since then, you have also participated in haunted houses, or do you own one?
Yes, both, all the above. What's happened with Talladega Frights is that it's a haunted attraction with quite a few actors, and I'm talking between 75 and 100, and they didn't really have a haunt mom, and my daughter became one of the actors, and so I just sort of started volunteering backstage, and before I knew it, I was having an integral part every night of getting the costumes to the kids, hanging the costumes up at the end of the night. And slowly I kind of made a niche job for myself just by really wanting to be out there with my daughter. Well, the following year he asked me back. And so from that point on, I've been a haunt mom for 5 years. And then this past year at one of the haunt conventions, I was approached by another company in Central California who was in need of a third partner for their new professional haunted attraction. And so there was an investor and a builder, and then the creative person was the one that was needed. And so I came with the skills of a marketer, social media, haunt mom, a writer, and I could do all of the actors. I mean, I could literally, I was buying the costumes and training the actors and all of that. So that's called the Raven's Gate, and that is in a city called Parlier, California. And if any of your viewers are familiar with the old Hobbs Grove in Central California, and if you have Central California viewers, they know what Hobbs Grove is. One of the owners of Hobbs Grove is my business partner now, and we opened the Raven's Gate. So, of course, along those lines, then, I started writing backstories then for my own haunt, which was an interesting aspect. It's fun when you write for someone else, but then when you write for yourself, it kind of takes on a different element. Now I got to be on the other end. Kind of a weird end, though. I'm writing it and receiving it as my haunt's backstory. Kind of weird.
So why is the backstory important for a haunted house, either professional or home haunt?
Okay, let me give you a perfect example. The Bloodshed Brothers. When they approached me to write their backstory, they were home haunters. And they build like you build and like other home haunters build, all out. You may not be professional, but you build all out just like the pros do every year. And so they had people helping them. They had people coming over to help them with construction. And just like everybody else, then you have the acting crew that comes on for the nights that you're open. And it's an essential element to get everybody on the same page. Say you are on the construction crew, and if I'm the haunt owner and I have in my mind that I want to do a hotel, but in my mind the hotel is in the 1930s, and I'm trying to tell my crew, hey, we're building a hotel. And you know how crews are. Sometimes you have the same crew. Sometimes your friends can come help. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's your brother. Sometimes it's your dad. Sometimes you just take anybody off the street. Again, the backstory serves as consistency, because you can just say, here's the backstory. It's a hotel that was built in the 1930s, which means that you're going to have props, decor, your furniture, possibly the way that the plywood is painted and peeled. You know, you're not making a contemporary hotel. You're making a hotel that is dilapidated and completely falling apart, and, you know, to make it scary and things like that. So it's important. Again, the backstory plays a role in that, because the construction crew is all on the same page. It goes from flat to three-dimensional. When you're a customer and you're standing in line, we all want to be scared. That's cool and that's fun, and you expect to be scared. But when you add the element of a backstory, you're giving a history. You are giving a teaser for what's going to happen, and it adds that last element. So you're tapping into someone else's fear. It gets way scarier if people are anticipating who they're going to see once they get inside. They've been given a teaser. They know you're not giving anything important away. You're not telling where the scares are, but you're heightening their senses. You're adding to the fear factor. What a backstory does is it provides dialogue. It provides specific characters. In the backstories themselves, we talk about elements that are in the haunt that people might see. If you have a circular saw, if you have, I think one of the haunts I wrote a backstory for had horseshoes or something that was important to their haunt. And so we talked about horseshoes and spurs and things like that. These were things that the noises, maybe the spurs that the noises it made, the noises they make that were important to their story. For the professional haunter, you have a much bigger crew. You have a huge audience. You probably have a website. You have tickets. You have reason to have maybe a VIP night. You have reason to maybe have all access passes. And in those cases, for pro haunts, the bigger where they have more elements, backstories come into play because you have characters that now you can use in marketing. You can use them in ads. You can use them in your radio ads, your TV ads. You can use their images on your tickets. I can show you examples of tickets that were used directly using characters from backstories I've written. Lanyards, all access passes, all of them have the element. It's all consistency is the best word I can use. When you have a backstory, it makes everything about your haunt consistent, from your ticketing to your costumes to your actors and what their lines are. If you tell an actor, you're just going to go play a hillbilly, go. You're going to get a lot of the same dialogue over and over and over again. But if you give an actor a character, say, you're going to be Billy Bob or you're going to be Charlie, and these are some of the lines Charlie might say, and then if you give Charlie a history and you make that actor learn the history of the character, they begin to take ownership of the character, of the storyline, and they act. That's the difference in having a script and not having a script. They act, their acting goes through the roof. They just become a different level of actor at that point. And as you know, not everyone can afford animatronics, expensive props, expensive anything. So a lot of haunts, home haunters, and a lot of pro haunts too, must rely on the ability of their actors to be believable in their role and to be scary. And a backstory allows them a script, a background, a history. I like to call them It's the story of it's the history of your haunt, how your haunt became haunted to begin with.
How many backstories have you written?
Oh, how many backstories have I written? Let's see. I want to say since 2009, I've probably written close to 12, I'm guessing, right around there.
What are some of your most memorable ones, your favorite ones, or more successful ones?
Wow. Well, I'll have to say right off the bat that my two most successful ones are, well, actually, I'll start with the Bloodshed Brothers. The Hyde Street Massacre was a story that I wrote that both Zach and Jeremy had input in. They told me what they think happened to haunt their haunt, and they told me certain elements that should go in it. From there, I took their ideas and I molded it and massaged it and blew it up into what's now called the Hyde Street Massacre, and they loved it. And they took what I call success is when a haunt owner can continue to take that same backstory and use it year after year after year. And as you can see from their T-shirts, all their swag, they're still using it. As a matter of fact, I bought one of their T-shirts because one of the lines from my backstory is on the back of the T-shirt, and it says the line is, "It was a very bloody night." Seems like who knew that that was going to be the line that they took out of the story that most affected them, but they saw that line and they're like, yes, we can get mileage out of that line. It was a very bloody night. That is a huge success story for me when somebody can take something and get so much mileage out of it. Secondly, I would say my own haunt, the Raven's Gate, has definitely benefited from the backstory. And in fact, I call it a haunted attraction built from a backstory. Because the Raven's Gate was built in 72 days. It's on 20 acres, and it's huge. It's a haunted forest, a haunted hayride, trick-or-treat forest. It's just enormous, and the fact that we built it in 72 days is a miracle, actually, because we opened the entire month of October. It was a crazy thing to do, but somehow we managed to do it. But during that time, when crews, right before they were getting ready to construct the forest, I wrote the backstory. From that backstory, we did, because in our backstory, a main character is killed, and he is, the whole reason our forest is haunted is because these were his family members, and they now are angry that he was killed. Well, we held a mock funeral for him, and that was our VIP night. We made everybody dress in black. We had a coffin. We had flowers. It was a wake. We even had bagpipes. We had a bagpipe player there for when the guests arrived. It was crazy. It was fun. But again, that was from the backstory. All of our tickets had pictures directly from the backstory. All of our T-shirts said RIP on them because, again, this whole year focused on the death of this character. We did lanyards. Our backstage passes, so to speak, our all-access passes, front and back, were directly designed from the backstory. If you go onto my website, if you want to see what I'm talking about, you can go to my website. It's danamartinwriting.com, and when you get there, you can go to two different links. One of the links says Haunted Backstories, and one of the links says Raven's Gate. If you click on Raven's Gate, not only will you get to read the backstory, but you'll get to see along the edges, all the way down the side, all the different ways we used the backstory for merchandising, for everything that I just talked about. So that is the big success story.
I suppose that would lead right into the question to my subscribers, Just the Making and JHMDF. Do you just make the stories up, or do you actually base them off of an experience you've had or another story you've heard from your mom or grandma or something? Where do you draw your inspiration?
I was about as sheltered as anybody can ever be growing up. I wasn't, I couldn't watch R-rated movies, and, most scary movies are R-rated. I did watch Friday the 13th. I had gotten old enough at that point to watch that. But as far as scary stories, only fairy tales at my house. So, if you knew my background, my poor kids, they don't even recognize their mom anymore when I get to the point where I'm writing these backstories. To be quite honest with you, as I'm typing, I and I need something weird or gross, I can't even tell you where I tap into in my brain, but I just keep typing and things come up like some weird, sick, twisted guy who did experiments on live humans using electrical cords and blue cheese dressing. I even had a client in Canada read that backstory and then ask me repeatedly, please put something weird and gross in my story just like that. It doesn't have to be blue cheese dressing, but make it something weird like that. So I don't know where it comes from. All I know is that it must be in this twisted brain somewhere, and I'm just finally tapping into it after all these years. And then the second part of the question, from where do I draw my inspiration? I would have to say from the haunt owners themselves. When someone decides to do a backstory, I call them on the phone and we chat. And I ask questions about their haunt that only they will know about. I'll get into in-depth questions and I'll get to tap into their passion. When they start telling me, and then this happens, and then when the guest goes through here, this happens, and you can feel a haunt owner's enthusiasm. As we keep talking, you can feel that they're getting more excited about it. When they start telling me, a total stranger who's very interested, to tell me about their haunt, they get to describe things about their haunt. That's where I get my inspiration, is wanting to please them. One of my biggest rules about haunted backstory writing is when I send it to someone, they have to get back to me right away. I won't send it if I don't think they're sitting next to the computer right that minute, because it's like, as soon as you're done reading it, I have to know what you think about it. And it's just because it's like giving someone a birthday present and shopping for it and like getting the perfect gift for them, and then you don't get to see them open it. See, so I mean, that's how much attention I spend. It's like buying the perfect gift for someone and then dying to know what they think of it.
So what you're basically saying is when we finally get around to doing the backstory for Hellmouth, you want me to vlog it.
Oh my gosh. I want to see your face. And we're going to get on Skype, and I want to see your face as you're reading it. Better yet, I'm going to read it to you. Because that, and I think I told you this before, that's another joy I get that I don't get very often, because most of my clients are not from California. When they're from California and, you know, my particular area in general, I am able to take the story to them and read it to them like story time. And there's nothing better than getting a whole bunch of guys around sitting on plywood, and you have their full attention, and it becomes story time with full-grown men, and you just get to read it, and then you get to see their reaction when it's over, and it's always the same thing. It's like, and they look at each other. That was awesome. I love it. It's like my favorite thing. I love it.
So Child's Play 233 and Ramthal ask, how long does it take to complete a backstory?
Never more than a week, but it depends on how much research I need to do. I'll say, well, do you know where it takes place? And people don't even think that should matter. And I said, well, no, where do you think it takes place? Is it mid-America? Is it something old like Pennhurst that's in brick buildings? Or is it somewhere, you know, middle America somewhere? It all is very important, depending on their answer, number one. Number two, depending on how much they know about their haunt. Do you have a name for it yet, or are you leaving that to me? Your particular asylum, do you want me to name it? And if so, then I'm going to spend a lot of time researching. I'm going to find a unique name for the asylum, and then I'm going to find a place in America where it would have been built, where it would have lived during its heyday. I research names, especially if somebody says this took place in the 1950s. I'm going to find names that were popular in the 1950s or 1930s or 1920s. It's very important. 1800s. It's very important to be accurate. Do you think that somebody's going to call you out on it? No, typically not. However, it matters to authenticity. Realism. It adds to the realism. Realism is huge, and the more details you have accurate, the more realism you have, and the more believable and professional you look.
It's just like if you were to design a room in a haunt. Not everybody's going to see all the details that you have put into that room, but if it's lacking detail, they will absolutely pick up on that.
You're right. in the detail that you are putting in, you're giving people the experience. And whether they see every detail is irrelevant because they're going to feel the experience when they move through that room. Having a backstory is sort of like watching a movie trailer. It doesn't give it all away, but it gives people something to look forward to when they get to your haunt.
JHMDF asks, how long is the backstory?
Oh, well, generally, and this is my own rule of thumb, I like to keep them between 400 and 600 words simply because you don't want to lose your readership. You don't want to, studies have shown that people stop reading after 400 words, and so they get bored or move on. We live in this society of everything's fast and fed to us via, some other medium, and most people don't like to read past 400 words. So I try to keep them between 400 and 600, and I really don't go over that for the most part. I probably did on Raven's Gate, but for others, I try not to, just because it keeps it concise.
You and I met for the first time last year at the West Coast Haunters Convention. You gave 2 excellent classes. One was, of course, how to write a backstory, which if people come to West Coast this year, you're doing the class again, so they could actually learn how to write a backstory.
Yes.
Or if they're not comfortable with that, then, obviously you're available.
Mm-hmm. What happens when I do these speaking engagements is that I don't hold anything back. If someone is paying to come to a haunt conference, like West Coast Haunt Convention, which is the only one that I am actually doing the presentation at this year, if someone is going to pay and then come into my class, I am going to do my best to teach them how to write their own backstory. There will always be people who don't want to do it themselves, and for them, I'm available to write them. That's what happened. The Bloodshed Brothers took my class, and they're like, this is all great information. We took notes, but we simply can't write. And there's a lot of haunt owners that are in that same boat. But for those who want to try, I absolutely give them all of my tips, tricks, and secrets to writing haunted backstories.
So is there anything that you would like to add? I will give the floor to you as far as websites, Facebook, how to get in contact with you.
Oh, okay. That's one thing we didn't talk about this time. Okay, so you have a haunted backstory. How do you get people to read it? I think that is something a lot of haunt owners would wonder about. Okay, now it's up on my website. How do I make sure people read it? You hold contests like I do on Facebook. I hold Facebook contests. I give away free tickets, T-shirts, stuff that the public is going to want. But in order for them to win, they have to answer a question that I have gotten directly from the backstory. It's nothing easy that they can scan. I want them to read it for understanding. I want them to understand the backstory. So I'll ask something that's a little bit more hidden within the text. And that's how you get people initially to go to your website, and plus it's going to give you website hits, which is good, but from Facebook to your website to get them to read the backstory. I also have a piece of advice for people who have had a backstory written for them and they have created characters. Have a professional photographer out, or not professional, but somebody with a nice camera, and take pictures of your actors in character, not smiling, but in character. You can use those pictures throughout the year for different things on Facebook, on your webpage, and you can certainly use them in ads and marketing. So once you have paid to get a backstory or you've written it yourself, utilize the elements of that backstory. Take pictures of your characters. Take pictures of your haunted attraction. Try to meld the two together so that you get some mileage out of your backstory. And then people will start to know your characters. If you're interested in getting a backstory written or you're interested in learning more, you can contact me at dana@danamartinwriting.com. You can go to danamartinwriting.com and click on Contact Dana. That's just as easy. You can read backstories there. I have links to several of the backstories I've written, so if you just want to read examples, then you can get on there and you can read my work. You can click on and go to the haunted pages, the haunted attraction pages of the people I've written them for. And you can contact me and we can talk about what your needs are and what your time frame is. I will tell you that the cost of the backstory does go up in the fall because I'm busy, like all the other haunt owners are busy. But like everybody else, if you're getting busy with your hunt, I'm probably getting busy too. So it's not impossible. I can do it. The price just does go up a little bit. So, and that's just, you know, to cover my cost of frenzy. And then you can find me on Facebook too. Please follow me on Facebook. I would love to hear from all of your viewers. You can reach me at Scary Girls Haunt Management. So that's where I'm trying to send all of my scary clients to and my scary followers. There's Dana Martin Writing on Facebook as well. You can find me in both places. But my little vampire girl is on Scary Girls Haunt Management, and she's my favorite. Oh, yes. Copyright. That is important. When I write the story, it's not my story, and that's one of the things I talked about. It's like being a surrogate mom. If you're a surrogate mom, the baby that's inside of you is not yours. You're giving it to the family. That is the same way with haunted backstory writing. It's yours. It's yours. It's copyrighted. The only thing I ask is that my name appear at the very, very end, and I go over that with the person who's bought the backstory. That's it. Copyright is your name, and you can use it in merchandise. You can use it on marketing, over your website. You can do anything you want with it because you own it.
You also offer editing. If somebody wishes to write their own backstory, they can still submit it to you?
Yes. One of my biggest warnings is that people, if you're going to write your own backstory, which I encourage, then please have somebody check it for grammar, check it for spelling errors. I don't know how many times I've gone to websites just to research or look at somebody else's work, and I see mistakes, and those just really scream of an unprofessional haunt. So mine are not going to have mistakes in them, and if you wrote your own and you want it edited, please contact me. I would be happy to do that for you.
Dana, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. You're always a pleasure to talk to.
Thanks.
But yeah, I can't wait to see you again this year at West Coast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I love watching your vlog, and this has been so much fun, and I love talking about Halloween, and if anybody wants to just talk Halloween or maybe have a question, an issue with actors or an element in your backstory, you know, I'm completely approachable. Just send me an email. I'll shoot something back to you.
And maybe that's another interview that we could schedule. It's the whole haunt and your actors, or actors and your haunt.
Yes, if some of your viewers have questions, if they have had issues come up, or, you know, what do I do? Do I feed them? Do I not feed them? Do I pay them? Do I not pay them? What do I do? How do I survive? How many actors? Costumes? Any questions at all? Yeah, have them ask right on your site, and we can address those.
Sounds great. All right. Once again, thank you. And everybody, if you want a backstory written, the easiest way, DanaMartinWriting.com.
Thanks, guys.